Within the world of TDX, there are a bunch of characters that are crucial to the lore of the game, but one character has been hiding in the background, barely seen, rarely mentioned, yet holding one of the most tragic stories of all of the TDX characters. That character is Dr. Malory. Today, we're diving into her full story, from her former alliance with Dr. Xenon, to the dark path that ultimately led her to losing herself and becoming something far more worse than just a companion. Hello Internet, and welcome to the 20th TDX Theory. And as I've mentioned earlier, we'll be diving into Dr. Malory's full story. Now, I should say that most of her story is scattered through small hints of lore drops. Lore drops are basically small puzzle pieces that are images pertaining to the TDX lore that are shared in the official TDX Discord server, and that's where I'll be picking up most of her story from. So now, let's get into the story of Dr. Malory, and we'll start right at the very beginning. In TDX's tutorial mode, the events that happen in this game mode occur in the past during the Tower Battles era and when Dr. Xenon was still in the GDA. In the map, there's this document that you can find called Project Calamity, which is the first clue towards Dr. Malory's story. In the paper, the most important part is that it mentions the discovery of an ancient rock with an unknown sigil, aka the Calamity Rock, which was found and has been put into research by two doctors, which are Dr. Xenon and Dr. Malory. Now, let's move on to our first lore drop. In this first lore drop, we get to see Dr. Xenon and Dr. Malory with crossed out eyes, which I will explain later. Behind them is the Calamity Rock that I talked about not so long ago, and it seems like they're extracting the energy from the rock in order to use it on the power straps, which would power most of the enemies we see in TDX. I'd also like to note that this photograph takes place after both Xenon and Malory have left the GDA, as a picture on the wall signifies how they hate the advisor and that they want to destroy the GDA. On their work table, we can see them with pictures of newly made enemies, Plague Doctor's green substance as we know that the Plague Doctor and Dr. Xenon both have an alliance, and most importantly, their research on how they have concluded that the Calamity faction are in fact demons from hell. Now, on the whiteboard over here, Xenon's plans was for her to team up with the Calamity in order to destroy the GDA. But how exactly would she summon the Calamity? Well, demons love one thing, which are sacrifices, and Dr. Xenon could just sacrifice any one of her random workers, right? Well, in order for the sacrifice to be accepted, it had to be a worthy sacrifice, and it had to be a person that was close to you, and judging by this picture, Dr. Malory was a really close friend to Dr. Xenon. So, with a heavy heart, Dr. Xenon sacrificed Dr. Malory to the Calamity. This wasn't a mutual agreement between the two because in a different image, we can see Dr. Malory saying, "How could she do that to me?" That wasn't the end of Dr. Malory's story. After she was sacrificed, she was turned into a demon known as Redacted, while being under the control of the Calamity faction. But how do we know that this demon is Dr. Malory? Well, the Redacted enemy and Malory are both females, and in another artwork made by Mr. P, who is also the same person who writes the TDX lore and draws the lore drops, there is this drawing of Dr. Xenon and Redacted that are coincidentally in the same image. And I'm highly certain that the Redacted enemy is Dr. Malory. Remember when I mentioned how Malory's eyes were crossed out? Well, I think that it's supposed to represent a mirror image of her demon form, or in other words, a parallel to both of her appearances. Notice how in pictures depicting Dr. Malory as a human, her eyes are always crossed out and completely hidden. But when she's a demon, the most prominent part of her design that we can see are her eyes that are exposed and unhidden, which is a contrast to her crossed out eyes. One thing you may question is that when the Calamity does summon his minions, why are there multiple duplicates of Dr. Malory / Redacted? Well, Mr. P replied to a Discord message asking this question, and he stated that it was just clones, meaning that most of the entities are just carbon copies of each other. In our second lore drop, we can see the events unfolding during Wave 80 of Endless Mode, where Calamity attacks the GDA, but Xenon's plan also backfires, as some of the Calamity entities are also attacking her Plague Division army, which are the Prisoners, Spectres, and Guardians. As Xenon was monitoring the battle unfolding, she was shocked to see her old companion Dr. Malory staring at the screen. Frozen with guilt over what she had done, all Xenon could do was hide behind her chair. There are also multiple sticky notes in this image. The first one highlights how sacrificing Dr. Malory in the first place was a dumb idea. The second one depicts a cult of people worshipping the Calamity, which we know is the Calamity subfaction, which are the Awakened. The third and last sticky note is self-explanatory, which is that Dr. Xenon wants to rescue Dr. Malory from Calamity's control. For our third lore drop, it seems to be an image of the advisor, Dr. Xenon, and Dr. Malory. But the second version of this image, it becomes more twisted with the advisor in shock, Dr. Xenon with a sinister look, and Dr. Malory crying as she's presumably being corrupted, like what we have seen earlier with the glitchy effects. I think that this image is trying to tell us a story. With that being, Dr. Xenon is proceeding to sacrifice Dr. Malory with bad intent, which in turn summons the Calamity, which the advisor notices as there's a faint red glow reflecting off his mask. This image also reveals Dr. Malory's name. As before, we would have only known her as the companion because that is what she was called back then. Now, the name Malory might sound ordinary at first, but it actually means unfortunate or ill-fated, which is a fitting reflection of her character, especially considering the whole demon sacrificing ordeal. In Chapter 3 of the 2024 Halloween event, the map that we are located on is called Hellspire. One important detail shown in this map is that there are these banners depicting a female Calamity entity with wings, horns, and a halo, and this is presumably Dr. Malory. The text at the bottom of the banner says Dea Vindicec, which is Latin for the goddess of vengeance, which refers to Dr. Malory over here, where she wants her revenge, most likely on Dr. Xenon. Along with these banners being placed around the map, it is also placed on top of the Contemptor enemy as a sort of way to worship Dr. Malory. So what could this mean? Well, this could mean that Dr. Malory has essentially climbed the ranks of the Calamity faction, now bearing her new demon form, and now she is seen as an all-powerful figure within the Calamity faction. In our fourth lore drop of Dr. Malory, we get to see her along with a bunch of Vile Seraphs, which is another enemy of the Halloween event, along with her demon form at the bottom right corner. Some of you might think that the Vile Seraphs are actually more clones of Dr. Malory, but they aren't. And from a different lore drop, they are actually the corrupted flying units of the relics, just like how they turned the Overseer into a corrupted Maze Guardian. What I think that this image is trying to tell us is that it just represents everyone that has been claimed or corrupted into the Calamity faction, nothing more, nothing less. Well, that wraps up the entire story of Dr. Malory that we know of so far. From a companion who was betrayed by one of her closest friends, to a demon who is the prominent figure within the Calamity faction. And I'll make sure to keep you updated if there's any more lore drops that continue her story. But with that, always remember that that's just a theory. A TDX game theory. Thanks for watching.